One, and we're live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How are you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, so let's jump in. But right before, thanks to our sponsor, Recurrent, get a free range cord and monitor your EV battery performance with fresh insight each month. US listener can get started by entering their VIN number or license plates at recurrentauto.com, or you can just click the link in our show notes right now. All right, let's jump in. We have a lot to discuss this week. We're gonna start by something that I think we discussed it on the show like a half a dozen times at least, and we just couldn't wrap our head around why don't we have a CCS adapter for Tesla vehicles in North America? Now we do. Tesla launched it on its accessory TeslaShop.com website, starting at $250. So basically the same thing that it was on the North Korean on the Korean website that Tesla has made available for I think almost 2 years. I want to say at this point. Yeah, that was in 2020. That's crazy. It took them 2 years to launch it. And one of the reason why we thought that was my lead reason why I thought Tesla might not be launching in North America, because there are a decent number of vehicles that cannot use it because they don't have the ECU, the charging ECU that can work with the adapter. So Tesla needs to retrofit those vehicles in order to access it. And I thought, okay, maybe Tesla is not really doesn't have like the volume of those ECU. We knew all the chips, anything that has to do with computing is electronics is super hard to get these days. So maybe Tesla is like putting everything it has in its for the production of its vehicles, and doesn't have anything for the retrofit to be ready. They're waiting to have the supply in order to have the capacity to do that. But then they launched the product, and if you don't have the right model, and by the way, did I rate? Yeah, so it's any built prior to October 2020. So that included me. So when I went to the Tesla website and I tried to order it, it had me log into my Tesla account, so it knows the VIN of my car, so it knows if I'm eligible or not to just use the CCS combo adapter, or if I need the ECU retrofit. And sure enough, I did. And you cannot even order it. If you do, it says that it's going to be available in early 2023. So that wasn't even the bottleneck here, because they're not even ready for the retrofit still, even though they're launching it in North America right now. So I really don't know what was the hold up then. Maybe it was the actual production of the adapter itself, because I'm sure the demand for this is going to be quite strong. And but yeah, it's available right now, 250, unless you have a Tesla vehicle produced before October 2020. Then at that point, you need to wait until next year for Tesla to launch it. Honestly, I wasn't even sure I was going to order it. If I did, like for the most part, I'm
You
very.
are going to order it though?
Uh, I mean, probably like just out of impulse, like just when it happened, and to have it as an option. But I don't know if I really need it. I don't remember any time right now that while I had my Tesla, I needed to access a CCS adapter. I know that you had a spot that made sense for you in Vermont, I think.
Right. And
Did you order it?
we use the CCS. So we got one from what is that company called?
Oh, that's right. You
Uh,
have a third party one.
yeah. So we have a third party, and it didn't work fantastically. It actually
Hmm.
worked at EVgo, but it did not work at Electrify America.
Hmm.
And there's supposed to be a firmware update for it, but I can't install the firmware update because it's very convoluted. So I might just sell that or give that to somebody and then get one of these if I still need it. I still have the Chatamo adapter, which is fine. And frankly, I don't need it that often in Vermont. Like, actually,
Hmm.
we really don't even need it in Vermont because we have a charger at our house now.
Hmm.
Um, and frankly, like at some point this year, we're going to start taking whenever that Rivian comes in. That's going to be our Vermont vehicle. So
And
don't
that
really
has
need.
CCS standard on it.
Yeah. Also, like looking at this picture, if people are watching the video, it's amazing how big the CCS adapter is compared to the Tesla adapter.
Hmm.
It's like six times bigger of
Yeah.
a interface. It reminds me of like having like a serial connection versus like a USB connection. It's like generations difference in
Hmm.
technology. And I do get Aptera's point we talked a few weeks ago or months ago about how it would be nice if the US just standardized on the Tesla adapter. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think you think it's
Mhm.
going to happen, but it would be kind of nice to have a much smaller, easier to use cable than this big chonky thing.
Yeah, that really highlights the contrast between the two here. But when you think about it, though, like how hard it is to use a CCS adapter, it's not an adapter with an actual connector. Period. It's not that hard. Like
No, it's
it
not.
is. So it is definitely easier to have a small adapter, especially like in cold weather and things like that. Like the cables can get sometimes stiff and everything, and then if you have to manipulate this giant connector, it's not as easy as the very simple Tesla one, but it's not it's not going to be like a bottleneck to EV adoption. That's not going to be a problem on that front. But
Right.
yeah, it does highlight just how much more efficient Tesla's design is, because this thing is actually can output the same power. Like, so it's not like a power difference. But yeah, so 200. Speaking of power, this thing is rated for 200 kilowatts.
250.
No,
250, right?
250. Yeah, that offers charging up to 250. Yeah.
That's
It said,
big.
yeah. That says just as fast as the regular Tesla adapter, Tesla
Yeah.
connector.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know what is happening in that little box. Like I think it's mostly just a pass through, right? Like it's just big wire to big wire, just different interface.
Yeah,
Because
I would imagine.
I think the CCS
There's not
handshake
that much
stuff,
to it. Like that's why like other third party were able to replicate it to a degree.
right?
Like you said, maybe not as good, but still it's doable.
Yeah, the actual
But yeah, you just
handshaking
have
stuff.
to the people have been waiting for. Yeah,
The
the
handshake.
retrofit is definitely a bummer, but are we do we have a lag or something?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty bad lag.
Yeah.
But the handshake for the CCS actually happens in the Tesla, not in the adapter. So theoretically, Tesla could even have things like plug and charge,
Hmm.
uh, where you just pull up to Electrify America, plug in, and it's kind of like a supercharger. Although I don't know if that's the case yet, but that
Yeah,
that
that's a good
actually
point.
happens on the car.
That's a good point. So yeah, but it's available right now. You can order it. We're gonna move on to the next story. All right, that's something that has been. I've seen a lot of concern regarding that in the last few weeks in the media and the investor community and all that. Tesla has been dropping its wait time for a new delivery significantly, and of course, all the naysayers are jumping back on the wagon that the demand is a problem for Tesla. That's why the wait times are dropping significantly. And we pitched that to some of the sources, and we discussed it a little bit last week with our sources, saying that how Tesla is planning to handle the situation with the new tax credit, where it's planning on honoring its order contract with customer, where it won't let people just delay the delivery indefinitely until next year in order to benefit from the new tax credit. It's not as like accommodating as other companies on that front, just because they have just coming back to it, they have the demand, like they can afford not to they can afford to do that. And just the issue with Tesla and the wait time right now is matching the production allocation with the actual order bank. So depending, like um Tesla Fremont factory, for example, is going to produce whatever amount of Model S it's supposed to produce this quarter, Model S Plaid, Model S long range, and same thing for all the other versions of the other vehicles. And sometimes that doesn't exactly match the order bank that they have, and especially at the end of quarters like this one, the quarter is ending next week. At the end of next week, you end up having some allocation that doesn't have an order right now, that someone is ready to take delivery. So it does create some openings at the end of the quarter. So that's why Tesla adjusts their delivery timelines to let people know, hey, if you place an order right now for this specific version of this car, you might be able to get it within like 2 weeks, which is what is happening at this particular time. So it has nothing to do with demand dropping whatsoever. The demand remains strong. Also included in that post, I included Pierre Ferragut of New Street Research. He's been tracking the wait times and the backlogs, and he believes that the Q3 backlog at the end of the quarter is going to be a little bit smaller than the one in Q2 for sure, but the actual order rate is going to be higher. So you can see here Q3 higher than Q2, so more orders this quarter, and of course deliveries there's I don't does anyone doubt that Q3 deliveries is going to be a new record high? I don't think that's a concern for anyone at this point. Q3 and Q4 are most likely going to be record highs. In this case, New Street Research put it at close to 400,000. Oh boy, yeah, close to 400,000 in Q3, and going up to almost 500,000 in Q4. That would be impressive. All electric long range vehicles, dude. That's a big difference. All right, the expansion of the full self-driving beta is happening right as we speak. Over the last few days, over the last week, Tesla has officially expanded its beta program for the first time in a few months. So in May, there was from earlier this year all the way through May, there was a big expansion to basically 100,000 people that have bought FSD in North America. And now Tesla is expanding it further to 160,000 people. So over the last week or so, Tesla added about 60,000 people to the FSD beta program. Basically, anyone who has a driver safety score of over 80. However, there are some other criterias. Like, for example, some people have been complaining, like, "Hey, I'm over 80 and I don't have it yet." There's some people that need the camera upgrade. That has been one of the main problems. That there's some vehicles that's going to need a new cameras to be able to have FSD, which is a free retrofit that Tesla is starting to offer. But there's also other restriction. We were talking, Seth and I, about that just before the show here, because we were waiting for Seth to finally get his, because he's been maintaining his car over 80 for a little while now. But you were saying that you think that it's because you're not driving enough on Autopilot, or more specifically Auto Steer, that might be why you're not getting the update?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of well, I didn't know about this, but Tesla Scope, a Twitter account that follows the app upgrades, showed me part of the limited early access full self-driving beta, like, fine print, and that is to be eligible, you must have at least 100 miles driven on auto steer, and I'm fairly certain in my lifetime I've accumulated much over 100 miles driven on auto steer. However, I think what it means there, or what Tesla is using, is that 100 miles driven in the last 30 days. And if I go to my thing, it actually tells you how many miles of auto steer you've driven in the last 30 days.
Oh yeah.
And if I go to the thing, I'll put it up on the camera here. By the way, they preemptively told me that they don't have the CCS adapter upgrade before I even asked. Let's see, wrong car. Too many cars.
That's on your model. How old is it? Your Model 3 or Model Y? No,
Model Y is 2020, and I think it has the CCS adapter. All right, so I go to safety score. Let's see if you can see that. 94 should have it, right? But there's this little thing in the top left.
we won't be able to see. It's too small right now, but
yeah, let me see if I can bring it up here. But at the bottom, it says, I don't know. It says miles on autopilot, 28. Miles driven, 1,062. And that's August 25th to September 23rd. So I think they are counting miles on autopilot as miles of auto steer. And you need at least 100 miles. And I've only done 28. And it's my wife's car.
Within the last 30 days. Within the last 30
days, right? Yeah. So I think that's one of the problems that that's why we don't have it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for people that are getting it though right now, like the big thing is obviously be careful. It does work well in some conditions, but there are always some issues, and you need to be ready to take control at all time. You need to be paying attention at all time. I know a lot of people are excited, like to produce videos about it and everything. I understand. If you do that, make sure that you have someone else filming you. Or you have a standalone filming setup so that you're not filming yourself as you drive. Actually, you have to be careful because Tesla's own FSD driver monitoring system does detect if you are holding your phone. So you literally cannot do that on if you do it, they're gonna block your access to the FSD beta. And but with the expansion, they also like remove the strikes that the people had before. So people that were removed from the FSD beta program, which has been a controversial thing, even though like they apparently been removed for like serious misuse. There are people that actually paid for the for the FSD, and now they're removed from it, even though it's still in beta. I understand, and but it's a paid beta. So, like, I think we should maybe like rephrase the way we reference the FSD beta, because I hate when people if I criticize the FSD beta and people are like, "Hey, don't you understand what a beta is? Like, it's supposed to be like not perfect and everything like that." I mean, I understand, but it's also okay for us to criticize this because it's a paid beta. We paid for this, and we
Right.
paid for the final product, and they missed the deadline of the final product. So, I think people should. The Tesla fans should really, and myself, I'm gonna include myself in being a Tesla fan, and I think we should remove any kind of leeways that we give Tesla about, oh, it's just a beta and everything like that, because that's a cop out at this point. They missed their deadlines on this. They are charging a ton of money for it, um, upfront the money. So uh, they need to be a clear understanding in the company that there is pressure for them to deliver this, and if they can't, that's fine. Like, no one wants an unsafe product. So but if that's the case, then you have there has to be a back and forth here. Like you have to give us something. You have to accept some refunds and something like that, which is something that I said last week with the class action lawsuit that right now there is over the FSD beta. So if the Tesla really needs to, like, we cannot cut them slack anymore on like this is just a beta. Uh, and they've used that, of course, with Autopilot, with Autosteer. Autosteer, I think, is still in beta officially, even though it's been on the market for what, like 6 years at this
Is it
point.
really still in beta?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if you go in the settings of your car right now, it still shows in beta. Maybe not, but I would need to check. Uh, if it is, it's pretty crazy. Like 6 years of a product being sold to the public and still being beta. It's kind of wild. Which brings me to my next subject. I think is very important. So Tesla started sending out the invites for the AI Day in 2 or 2022. And of course, it's teasing a bunch of announcement regarding full self driving in there, the Tesla bot, the Dojo supercomputer. And obviously, there's a lot of emphasis on the Tesla bot. I mean, it's even in the in the invite here. You have the what appears to be the hands of the prototype, the working prototype that they're supposed to unveil at the event, making it a little hard here. It's very cute and all that. But Elon has made it clear it has become a priority for Tesla to develop the Tesla bot for a bunch of reasons. Like Elon's saying that people don't understand how kind of value it's going to create and the impact it's going to have, especially amid the labor shortage crisis that we have. And that's all fine and good if they can actually deliver it on such a product. But I mean, this week, what happened even on top of that, the Tesla. So a Tesla follower, an Elon Musk follower on Twitter, asked Elon about a fix on Autopilot, like just a simple like bug fix that needs to be done. And Elon, in its wise Twitter usage, decided to respond to it by saying, "Note: Autopilot AI team is also working on Optimus and actually Smart Summon Autopark, which have end of the month deadlines." Basically saying that, yeah, I understand there's a bug right now in Autopilot that we're gonna try to fix, but you have to wait for that a little bit because the Autopilot and AI team is also working on our humanoid robot, and also actually smart summon and auto park, which that's more a fair thing because that's actually a product that is part of the Autopilot suite of features.
Seems a little
But
crazy that that's priority right now, and also that there's a deadline on these things rather than,
mhm.
hey, when we figure it out, that's when it actually is ready to go.
And that deadline is really just a presentation of the
Right.
working prototype of the bot. So I mean, I assume that it's going to be a crude version of the robot that we're going to see next week, and it's going to be more of like more just like a demonstration of like some narrow AI within like it's going to demonstrate maybe a few very simple things that it can accomplish, which is fine at this stage of the program, but still the fact that even that is taking priority over bug fixes in Autopilot is kind of madness, and it brings a question really: is Tesla spreading itself too thin, focusing on this robot project? However, I understand how you like that's the big thing. Like if you just take Elon Musk comment at face value, the way he says it, like it makes sense. It's like this gonna like this gonna solve the labor charges, gonna improve manufacturing, gonna reduce costs across the board in a bunch of industries. It's gonna have a massive impact on the economy and everything. It's like, yeah, sure, it's all great, but when it's gonna happen? Like, you guys, we know like it's definitely a possibility, and I can definitely see like a Westworld type of futures in however many decades where we have a bunch of robots doing a lot of the work. However, like Elon makes it sound like, all right, this we can make that happen in the next few years, which we know it's like there needs to be significant advancement in robotics to make it happen. Even though there's been a lot of advancement in robotic, it's nowhere near the kind of functionalities that human hands like Tesla is literally promising with the Tesla bot. By the way, if you go back to the presentation, which I did this week, they're promising like human hand capacity with the Tesla bot, which like this is millions and millions of years of evolution that created the capacity that our hands have. If and no robots have come close to it, as far as I know, unless Tesla has some massive breakthrough and advancement in robotics. Like I don't see that happening. So everything sounds great. It's just like it's not gonna be on the timeline that Elon says, and that's not me saying that I'm more intelligent than Elon and I can see it better than he does. I'm saying that if you know Elon, he has a pattern of being overly optimistic with timelines, and he has been with the self-driving thing, which he's already sold to customers for years now, and he hasn't delivered on it. So let's put a priority on that and deliver on that, gain some credibility on that for your
Right.
robots. Because here's my prediction for next week, set, and I mean. We're basically gonna have a podcast next week around. I don't know. We haven't announced the exact time of the presentation, but I think it's gonna be on Friday. If I'm not mistaken, it's gonna be on Friday. So we're
Oh,
gonna have a
maybe
podcast.
we should have a late night because they always have it at like, Pacific time, like 8:30 at
Yeah,
night, whatever.
yeah, we're gonna definitely discuss that next week when we get actual timing on it. It's also my girlfriend's birthday, so I'm gonna
Oh,
have to
come on,
squeeze that.
priorities, man.
I'm gonna have to squeeze that in. Uh, the so, uh, do you think they're gonna take reservation for it?
Oh god, I hope not. But
It
yes, I do. I actually do think they're
yeah.
probably gonna do something like that.
Because if
Like,
they, my thinking is if they have a working prototype, historically speaking, when Tesla has a working prototype, it does start taking reservation for it. It might be like more of a like it might be more like a Tesla Semi kind of reservation process where it's aimed toward like anyone could reserve a Tesla Semi, at least used to, where you can just place a 5,000. I think that it went up at first. It was 5,000, then it went up to $20,000 deposit for it. So I could see something like that where it's aimed more at companies where like the average Joe won't really place a deposit, the 5,000 or 20,000 deposit for a robot. Um, but this would be interesting because I think it would kind of test Elon's credibility. I'm literally saying Elon because like I think a lot of the problem from Tesla missing timeline comes from Elon because he's the one that sets the timeline. Um, is going to be a test of his credibility. Where are people really going to go for it, or are they really going to like pre-order this things like crazy, like Cybertruck? If Cybertruck, of course, was $100 deposits a big difference. So again, I wouldn't expect that if they do go the Tesla Semi route and ask for like a 5,000 plus deposit. But still, it would be interesting, because if they do Cybertruck and like ask for like $100 deposit per robot, I think we see another Cybertruck situation where Tesla gets like a million reservation for it, even though like I wouldn't be one of them, to be honest, at this point. Like
No.
I think the whole Tesla reservation process, not just because I have doubts about Tesla delivering on a robot and everything, but I've grown completely dissatisfied with Tesla's reservation process, especially if you're not in the US. Like if you're in Canada, like like it makes zero sense to pre-order at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I think they need to hit the brakes on the, build the credibility, as you said, with Autopilot, and not just jump to the next thing. We've done some memes where like Elon's, uh, looking at the bot and not paying attention to cars anymore. But it
This
really
one.
feels like, yeah, that's the one. And it kind of feels like that's exactly,
Yeah.
you know, like the Roadster. What about the Roadster? You
Mm.
remember the Roadster? Like I was excited about that for a while. Still, a little excited about that. Uh,
The
the
Roadster
cyber.
gonna need a big upgrade at this point. Like this, was it
I don't even know what.
2017? It was unveiled.
Yeah, it came out of the back of the semi, which is also
Uh,
like not really delivering yet. And that's we're talking about 5 years now. It's crazy.
Yeah, the
And
the Roadster is gonna need a big upgrade if it does come out next year, as Elon said most recently.
as a side note, I think they should offer the affiliate referral Roadster winners. I think they should offer a Model X plaid, and you know that would
Well,
be a good way to tie people over.
I lost you for a second here, Seth. I think the whole stream lost you for a second, but I assume you said that they should offer like a Model S or Model X Plaid instead of a Roadster.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah, but in the meantime, oh yeah, I should add that. That's by the way why I skipped to the meme here is that I used it this morning for my post, where in a job listing for motion planning and navigation for the Tesla Bot program job listing, Tesla said that they plan to use thousands of humanoid robots within their factories. So much like the Tesla Semi program, where Tesla plans to be its own best customer and most likely its own first customer too. Tesla plan to use the Tesla bot to within its factories to perform some work. So that would be an interesting demonstration, actually, where if Tesla unveil the working prototype next week, if they can show it do like some work in the factories, I think that would be really interesting. Some actual like task to help the workers that would show some direct value that not only has value for like Tesla, but like at least for us who like have some issues. Tesla focusing on that program while a lot of other delivery timelines are slipping. That they would show like, all right, this is actually going to help us with our manufacturing and everything. And that wouldn't fix the issue in my opinion, but that would help, I think. All right, moving on. Yeah, the supercharger prices, that's something that we've been keeping an eye on over the last few months because they've been going up quite significantly. I'm talking about the price of actually charging your car at the station if you don't have a unlimited supercharging, like on older Model S and Model X. But yeah, it used to be like you would have a hard time paying more than $5-10 for a charge at the supercharger station. But now, like you have a hard time paying literally less than like $20-30, depending on how much you charge, how big of a charge you need here. And this is not quite um, the price of a tank of gas, especially not these days, because the price of fossil fuels has also increased. but it is starting to be a concern from some owners who rely a little bit more on the supercharger network. And this is a concern that I like to always frame, where most of your charging doesn't happen at the supercharger station. Like most of the charging generally happen at home, though electricity rates have also been going up at home in many markets, so that's also a concern, but not as big as a DC fast charging station. But now this week, Tesla announced in Europe, in basically all European markets, that they're going to increase the price. They are increasing the price of the supercharger network, and they've been doing so, to be fair, over the last year. But they had a big bump, like a 20 to 30% bump in many markets, where now you see a lot of prices. There's I did do a quick search all around, and obviously I couldn't check like most station, everything that would take me forever. But the one that I checked, like I couldn't find a station that charged less than 60 cent. Oh, is it? It's still cent in euros, right?
Yeah. Centime.
60 centime per kilowatt hours, like 60 cents per kilowatt hours, which is significant. Like my electricity rates here at my house is 9 cents per kilowatt hours, and that's Canadian cents, not euros. So it is significant, and that would bring your cost to over like $30 easy for a full charge on like a standard range vehicle, and easily over $40, $50 for a longer range vehicle. So it is becoming a problem. Hopefully, the Supercharger V4 with more energy storage and solar is going to give Tesla a little bit more control over its electricity rates at the supercharger station, avoid some of the demand charges, and reduce those prices. But in this case, this is like directly linked to like electricity rates increasing in Europe, especially with the energy crisis that they have right now, thanks to the war in Ukraine and the restriction on Russian gas, which has been supplying a lot of European countries up until recently. All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about recurrent?
Yeah, let me bring that up real quick. This week's episode is sponsored by Recurrent Auto. Recurrent lets you check the battery before buying a used EV and monitor your battery performance with monthly insights using its free battery reports for EV owners. And the new range score tool by Recurrent is like an odometer for EVs. It tells you at a glance how far a used EV can go compared to when it was new. It's especially helpful for people who are new to EVs and don't always know the questions to ask about range and degradation. Surveys and early results have found that buyers pay more for cars with range scores, even if not perfect condition. Anything is better than unknown, and substantially more for cars with really good range scores. For EV owners thinking about selling in the next 12 months, e.g., waiting for a pre order for a hot new EV, Recurrent offers a free EV specific valuation from Black Book that owners can use to sell their EVs at premium when ready. It's only available in the US at the moment for most Tesla, Chevrolet, and Nissan EV models. You can head over to recurrentauto.com/sell for more info and to get your free reports now.
Thank you, Recurrent, for sponsoring
Yep.
this week's episode of the Electric Podcast. We have a few more news items I wanted to discuss before we end the show, but before that too, we're gonna take your questions and discuss the subject that you want to discuss. So if you have any question about what we talked about today or different subjects in the EV world that you want us to address today, please put a comment right now in the comment section of whatever app you're watching. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the whole shebang. So leave us your comment, and we're gonna get to them in a few minutes. But Hertz had another big announcement this week. If you haven't been following their story over the last year, they've been heavily investing in electrifying their fleet of rental vehicle. Obviously, the big Tesla order last year, 100,000 Tesla Model 3s, and they ended up adding Model Ys to the fleet earlier this year. That was a huge deal. And they already took deliveries of tens of thousands of vehicles. They said that they're going to get the 100,000 by the end of the year, but when they said that, Tesla was like, I'm not so sure we didn't agree to that.
Right.
But they've basically been buying everything they can get. But they haven't been alone, though. Like Autonomy also has basically been doing the same thing, buying as many Teslas as they can get. So there's kind of a competition for fleet operators like that, large fleet operators like Hertz, and Autonomy is a subscription service. So they've been branching out Hertz to other automakers. At an order of 65,000 vehicles for Polestar, but that was over 5 years, so it should be easier to get. It's way more gradual than like basically 100,000 Tesla over 2 years. And now they are hiding an order of up to 175,000 vehicles from GM throughout all their brands. So electric vehicles from Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, and even some bright drop electric vans. And that's 170,000 vehicles over the next 5 years. And the first deliveries are going to start first quarter of next year, starting with Chevy Bolt EVs and EUVs that you're going to be able to rent out at Hertz locations. So that's interesting. I mean, the Bolt EV and Bolt EUVs are not bad rental car, I think, for like city drivings and things like that. Um, However, like for longer distance travel, it's not ideal vehicle. Which I don't know how exactly. Like they probably can find some location to put them at where it would make sense. People would be okay with renting a Bolt EV or UV. But I feel like when you rent a car out of the airport, it's generally like you want to drive like further than like the city or something like that. Because if you're gonna stay in the city, normally you won't bother to even rent a car. You're gonna use public transport or Uber or taxis or whatever. So that could be interesting here. They maybe they do something too, like because Tesla they did the deal for 100,000 vehicles, then they did another deal for 50,000 Tesla vehicles that Hertz rent to Uber drivers. Both EV and EUVs are not bad for Uber drivers for any kind of ride sharing. So maybe they do something like that too. But yeah, I mean, they said 175,000, but they said like Buick, GMC, Cadillac. So you're gonna see some Lyric in there. You're gonna see some GMC, some Hummer EV, maybe. I don't know, GMC. Now they have the Sierra EV coming too, I guess. But I think out if it's at that large of an order, like 175,000 vehicles, I would assume we're gonna see a lot of Equinox EV and Blazer EV in that order. I think that would make sense,
For
both
sure.
price wise and also like I think those are going to be very popular rental car. Makes more sense, I think.
Yeah, the Bolt is actually very narrow, so like you're sitting quite close to the person next to you, which is like for a lot of things it's fine, but I think a lot of people in rental cars expect a little bit more width unless they get the compact option. So the Equinox is actually much wider than the Bolt, and will probably make a better rental car.
Okay, lost you a little bit on this. I don't know if it's me having issues with my internet connection or if it's you, but we keep like lagging out of. You can hear me right now, right?
Yeah, are you on Ethernet or wireless?
I'm on wireless, but I've never
Oh,
had any problem here. Normally, my connection is pretty strong. But yeah, let's move on from Hertz. But like kudos on Hertz. Like that's
yeah,
basically I
it's
think
big.
300,000 over 300,000 vehicles that they have ordered, electric vehicles that they ordered over the last year, basically. Kia made an announcement this week that they're going to produce electric vehicles in the U.S. starting in 2024. Big surprise after the Inflation Reduction Act that is forcing a lot of foreign automakers to produce their EVs in North America in order to get access to the tax credit. So the Kia adds the EV6 and they have the EV9 coming, and they have a good portfolio coming to the US, or already in the US in some cases, I should say. So yeah, now if they want to keep their momentum going, they're gonna have to switch to local production relatively soon. So they announced this week that they are looking for a location to produce their EVs in the US. Did it say? I don't think they mentioned specifics. They're most likely going to partner with Hyundai, and since they are both built on the EN GMP platform, so the same Hyundai branded vehicle can be produced with the Kia branded vehicles.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. In the trucking long haul truck, long haul, like that's the actual name of the truck here. The eActros long haul from Mercedes-Benz truck was unveiled this week. It's the eActros. They already have like a short, like shorter city version of the truck. Now they unveil a long haul version for, as you imagine, long haul. However, it's not a crazy range that they have on this. Like it's not what we're used to when we talk about long haul trucking. We talk about like driving over 500 miles per day. Here we're talking about around 500 kilometers of range on a single charge, which is about 310 miles of range. Still pretty good for a full size like Class 8 truck here. And I would assume they didn't say in the release, but I would assume that 310 miles of range is with a full load. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Interestingly, they talk about having LFP cells in there. So they're not
Hmm.
going with higher energy density cells. They're doing with LFP cells, and they say that that's for longevity because they want the truck to last 10 years, 1.2 million kilometers, that's 750,000 miles. And LFP cells have been known to last a little bit longer, depending on their usage rate. But yeah, it's an interesting move from Mercedes-Benz where they're going with a longer range truck, not using higher density cells that normally would enable a longer range, and that definitely is shown with the specs of that truck because it gets 210 miles of range. While we know that Tesla is releasing a Tesla Semi this year with 500 miles of range with a full load. So this is different category completely, but maybe they can compete with longevity, and that will affect the overall cost of operation over the lifetime of the truck, which is a big deal because any kind of commercial trucking, it's like you have to have the bean counter, like making sure that it makes sense per mile cost over the lifetime of the vehicle. So an
Hey,
interesting move. Yeah, go ahead.
it's really interesting. LFP cells have kind of been like the big story in battery world
Hmm.
over the last year or so. Obviously, Tesla in China, big thing, but it kind of feels like everybody's jumping on the LFP bandwagon. If not for the high end, high output vehicles, but just for like the regular, middle of the road ones, it seems like LFPs make a lot more sense. A little bit cheaper. Don't use the wrong chemicals. Seem the trade offs are pretty good. So it's kind of a surprise because we didn't see that coming, really.
Hmm. I mean, I think it's purely out of necessity. Like you kind of have to. Like the nickel is just too tight of a bottleneck right now. Where if you want to deliver any product, you might have to have LFP cells in it to a degree. And I think a lot of people panic too with the when the price of nickel like shoot up like 3 times in a week during the war. Uh, but that has come down significantly, and I think we're back to like pre-war level of nickel pricing at this point. So maybe that was like an overreaction. Well, not maybe it was an overreaction of the market. There's no doubt about it. But then you have now lithium prices that are like through the roof. I think they are all-time high right now. They have not recovered since the war, and they just keep shooting up. So that's a bigger concern, I think, at this point. But yeah, I think nickel based chemistries are still going to be very important long term for higher energy density vehicles, and also just like vehicles where the dimensions are very important. So, like you will never see, I think.
Oops, looks like we lost Fred. Uh, so we're still talking about uh, the Mercedes-Benz eActros long haul with LFP. As Fred was saying, they. Oh, here he's back. Definitely on your end there, Fred.
Yeah, my apologies. I don't know what's happening. My internet is generally pretty good. All right, but anyway, we were pretty much it with the news. We can jump into the comments.
Actually, we have. I just since we're pretty early, I threw in my Range Rover PHEV review
Oh,
at the bottom. You can refresh that and if you
sorry
want
about that.
and bring that up.
Okay,
Uh,
I forgot about that. You were
that's all right.
in.
Well, they can't. They postponed the review
Oh, that's right.
a
That's right.
couple weeks because of the Queen. But yeah. So really nice of Range Rover to invite us out. I was kind of apprehensive about flying all the way across the ocean just to see a plug-in hybrid vehicle, but they said it had 50 miles of range, and it actually does have 50 miles of range. The last Range Rover they said had like 28 miles of range, and it was closer to 22. So I wasn't really my expectations were low. It was a super nice event. We got to drive all over Madrid area. Some nice pictures. Um, but the problem is that it's not the type of PHEV where you can keep the electricity only on. So what happens is if you're going up a big hill, or if you accelerate too much, or if you're in the cold, or anything that Range Rover's algorithm decides needs gas, the gas comes on. So, we're driving around on a highway. It's only got 103 kilowatt uh, motor. So you're talking about like a Hyundai Ionic, the original Ionic that looks like a Prius and kind of acts like a Prius in this huge vehicle. So even going up mediocre hills, the gas comes on. But that said, it's a Range Rover, super nice inside. Paint job was really dope, as you can see. Just you know, luxury, super nice. But the electric part, Range Rover is still behind on. And somebody at the event and a couple times since have asked me, like, are you tempted at all by the Range Rover? Are you going to cancel your Rivian reservation? And the answer is no. Like, it's just the Range Rover is not anywhere close to nearly as fast as the Rivian. It doesn't have the cool stuff. I think there's actually a lot more space inside the Rivian. So there's a lot of nice things about the Rivian that kind of trump the really luxurious interior. Also, the battery is 38.2, and that's total. I think they only use about 32 kilowatt hours, but still, you would think, hey, that's a lot of power. You would think it would be able to go beyond 50 miles of range, but this thing's just so heavy and so, like, poorly designed, I guess, that you can't get that much range from a big battery like that. So my take is that, if you're going to buy a Range Rover, this is the one to get. You might want to wait a little while, because in 2025, there's going to be a Range Rover full EV, which I think is going to be pretty cool. What do you think, Fred?
Well, I would agree with everything you just said. Basically, it's as simple as that. I wouldn't buy that. At
Yeah.
38.2 kilowatt hour battery pack, that's huge.
Huge
Like,
for 50 miles of range, right?
yeah, yeah. I feel like you're almost there. Like, why do you have like an engine in there? Just remove that and then double the battery
Right.
pack
Right.
and make it a little bit more efficient powertrain, and you have an electric car. Like, it's almost there. You're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, and so
Yeah,
here's
I'm
the other
definitely
thing. Like,
lagging. Like, even my internet right now is lagging.
yeah. So if you order a Rivian right now, you're probably looking at getting one in 2025, and Range Rover is going to have their full BEV in 2025. So maybe that's the reason why, you wait, because nobody's getting
Mhm.
an electric SUV anytime soon. Maybe the Kia EV9 or something, but so that's just kind of the landscape. Uh, Range Rover, puts on a great event. The people there were really cool. We got to see some cool stuff in Madrid, so I'm not mad at them. I'm just sad that they didn't have more EV stuff. All right, should we go into the comments?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's see. Starting with Carl in San Diego. Happy National Ride Electric Week. If you haven't yet, try an e-bike. Carl, come back tomorrow. We're gonna have an e-bike podcast for you. You're gonna love it.
Is it not
Um,
drive? Is he joking? Because it's a drive electric national drive electric week coming, and he
is
said
it drive
ride
electric?
electric.
Oh,
Yeah,
uh,
or is
yeah.
that a thing
I
too?
know
Maybe it is. I just don't know.
it's possible. Yeah, you're right. There is a ride or drive electric.
Mm.
There's a bunch of events around here. Um, Jamie usually covers that, so I'm sure we'll
No, I
have a
think there's a
post up this
post
week.
coming up right now on electric.
Oh, cool. All right. John S. Martinson says both of our Teslas are 2018 Model 3 and Model X. We have a 11,000-mile road trip planned for May 24th with the Model X going to Newfoundland, where there are 0 Tesla chargers. Need a retrofit for X before then. Very concerned. Uh, John, I don't know if we have any good news for you. Although I thought there were some superchargers in Newfoundland. Is that not
No,
right?
there's not. I don't know which way he's going to Newfoundland though. But yeah, I mean there are a lot of good destination charger that charge at like 19 kilowatts in those regions, like the bunch of national park there that Tesla has a partnership with. So there are Tesla chargers, just not superchargers. But I mean, you're talking about May 24, so you're talking about next year here. You might be able to get your retrofit for the CCS, and
Oh
also
yeah,
Tesla might have more superchargers. And I think they have more superchargers planned in the maritime regions of Canada now.
oh, that's cool. All right, Tyler Hilliard, please advocate for Tesla to allow pushing deliveries that are failing into November and December into January to get the tax credit. Well, I don't think Tesla's going to listen to us about that, but I think
Yeah.
frankly, it's just an education thing. Like,
Yeah.
tell people don't take delivery until January.
Well, here's the thing too. Why Tesla is doing that is like Tesla has been they've been teasing that pricing might come down in the near future with inflation, if inflation gets under control and all that. Uh, but historically, over the last 2 years, Tesla pricing have been going up and up and up. So Tesla is more about like they don't want people to push their orders if they have a price locked in on their orders, and then get the incentives. So it's more like, hey, we give you this price. You want a car at this price? If not, okay, just cancel your order and place a new one that you're probably gonna get next year. But then like the new order is going to be at that new price, whatever it is. So it's more about a timing thing where you're gonna have to figure out like when you plan on having the car, and you take a bet if you want to cancel your order because it's past your contract time. Do you want to take a bet that the price is not going to go up? That's it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. KC5 GTS says, "Hi, whatever happened to the Model 3 tow hitch in the US?" I know it's in Europe.
Yeah. the uh, they think there's no I think they think there's just no market for it or something like that. Like that's normally what Tesla's reason. They say like, no, we had it for like a week and no one ordered it, so didn't do it. Something like
Right.
that. I think there's definitely a market for it. There's a third party market for it. I see plenty of third party installation
Yeah.
of
Eco
tow
hitch
hitch.
is the big one,
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah, I actually installed an Eco on my Model Y because they didn't have any available at the
Mm.
time.
Was it a
Seems to
hard
be
process? Was it easy?
It was pretty hard, actually. I didn't think it was gonna be hard, but, like, I basically had, like, the whole backside of my
Mm.
Model Y taken apart. Uh, but it works fine. The only problem is that, I can't do, trailer mode or tow mode. So, the whole time we're, like, driving up to Vermont with the bikes, like, the back is, like it's not beeping, it's just, the red thing's freaking out or whatever. So, that's annoying. They don't like third parties.
Mhm.
Alright. Can you cover the Stanford report on the downside of nighttime charging? I did see that. Did you see that, Fred? There's something
No, I
about
did not.
um, so just as EVs proliferate, like there's more and more EVs around, and as solar proliferates, it's going to not no longer make sense to charge at night. Um, it's going to make sense to charge more during the day or different times. And I think we'll get there. Like it seemed to be like a big deal, but really
Oh, we
it's
there right now? Like, is like we have to be careful. Like, right now, it's not a problem to charge at nighttime. It makes more sense, right?
yeah, right now it's absolutely makes more sense in most places. I don't know
Yeah.
if all places, but the idea was that like as there's more and more EVs and as the grid goes to more solar, uh, it's going to make more sense to charge during the daytime. Which yeah, that makes sense. Um, but there's also charging from batteries and all kinds of other stuff. All right.
Yeah. Well,
KC5
I mean,
GTS asked if there's
workplace.
any charging.
Sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, but the workplace
Phil's
charging, like, you can. It's gonna make sense to charge your car where your car is parked. Basically, that's the big difference. So if your car is parked during the day and there's solar production during the day, just have a charging option during the day wherever your car is parked, and you solve the problem right there.
Yeah, and for most people, it's not like you have to charge your full car every day. So
Hmm.
even if you have a few hours at work, it's often enough to fully charge. All right, moving on. Any charging tips in southern Vermont around Manchester? Going there next week. I answered that. There's a Northshire bookstore 50 kilowatt charger EV Go for fast charging. I have a feeling you're a Tesla person, so unless you have a CHAdeMO adapter, there's a bunch of Tesla level 2. One is at Johnny Seesaw's, great restaurant, but also at the Equinox and a bunch of other places. So use an app, figure them out. All right. Roll of 20 says priority should be manufacturing and getting prices down. That's in regard to the Tesla bot.
Mm-hmm.
And then continues, I hate to call things a scam, but Tesla bot pretty much is a scam. There's no way it works within the next 10 years. Yeah.
I disagree. I think it can work within tech. I think it can definitely have useful application within 10 years. Do I think it gets to a Westworld type of robot within 10 years? Maybe not.
I mean, is it going to be actually a robot, or are we just talking about like more factory, things? Like, does it have to look like a human?
Well,
Or is it
that's the whole point. Is like there's already plenty of robots in factories, in Tesla factories or any other factories, but they
right?
are purpose built robot for a specific thing. The idea of having like a humanoid robot is that a lot of the machinery, a lot of the things that needs to be operated within a factory setting or any kind of settings really is built around humans. And also, if you have a human robot, you can automate infinitely more things, which makes a ton of sense. It's just that the humanoid robots needs to achieve a level of functionality that is, it doesn't need to be as good as a human, obviously, but it needs to be pretty close to that. And Tesla seems to think it can get close to that or to a useful level, let's say, relatively soon. And there's a lot of skepticism, healthy skepticism around that, I think.
Yeah. Moving on. Let's see. The thing is that FSD has issues in standardized environment. How is subprime? I guess that's the Optimus this going to adopt to a highly unstandardized one.
I mean, in factories are fairly standardized environments, so that's going to be the first application of it. So that's your solution right there. You're going to use them in that, just a lot like Autopilot, really, like FSD, the predecessor of FSD being Autopilot, being used in highway situation with a lot more standardized, a lot more like you see a lot less corner cases on the highway that you do in city driving situation. Like FSD beta is being used that right now. So Tesla is taking a very similar approach, I think, with the Tesla bot Optimus. Um, as it did and still is with Autopilot and FSD. But yeah, it's going to be a slow progression, I think, where we're going to see it used in factories and very well. Oh, I lagged out again. Sorry about that.
All right. So KC5 GTS is my first road trip to Texas from Pennsylvania in late 2019. Cost $36 each way in superchargers. Just did the same trip, and each supercharger stop cost about $30. Yep. That's
$36 all the way from Pennsylvania to Texas. That's pretty crazy, though. Like that's too low, if we're being honest. But yeah, 30 per stop, that's maybe too high, too.
right. Yeah, and I mean, if you're charging from home, I mean, the best thing to do is charge from home, and except on long trips, obviously. But you're still probably paying less than gas.
Oh, most definitely, I think.
All right, AI bot doesn't need a body. An existing welding robot can use AI to see if good weld aligned parts, broken tool without physical sensors, big savings, reliability. Yeah, so I think what the general idea is that you don't need a general human bot to build cars. You just need really good purpose-built bots. But maybe, maybe the humanoid thing needs to happen. Something, I don't know. Any thoughts there?
Well, I think it's just like people at Tesla factory shouldn't be scared, like, oh, we're gonna lose our jobs, or anything like that. I think it's just gonna result in some efficiencies where the robot's gonna be able to take parts of your job away, and then you're gonna be able to spend more times on other things and things like that. I don't think you can just like one robot replace one human or one human during a shift and then the robot can work like three shifts, whatever. I'm just like it's we're years and years and years away, decades away from that. But I think one robot within a team of people can help that team become more efficient and things like that. I think we're more talking about something like that. And as for like a welding robots and things like that, those are already there. They already use AI and computer vision, so that's there's nothing like it's not either or. It's they're going to work all together.
All right, moving ahead a little bit. Mark Webb question: do Powerwalls use LFP? And if not, I wonder why not. I have net metering, so I always keep Powerwalls at 100% charge for backup only. Not good for nickel-based chemistry, I've read. That does make a lot of sense. What do you think?
I think as of until like recently, we didn't have any indication that Tesla has moved Powerwall to LFP until the most recent announcement that they increased production to 6,500 units per week. That was the first indication that is, maybe they figure out the bottleneck here and they are using different cells, maybe LFP cells. And we had the same thing with Megapack 2.0, like the new Megapack with more energy but bigger, less energy density. We thought, that sounds like LFP cells. So maybe Tesla has recently moved its energy products to LFP, but we don't have a confirmation just yet. But if you already have some for a while, it's probably not. No.
All right, Randy Tyrell, any predictions for AI Day 2.0? We talked about a little bit. Any strange and weird and wild ideas?
Nothing strange, weird, and wild, but I think what we're gonna see is last year we had the Dojo chip and tile. I would hope for the Dojo supercluster, or at least like some form of a supercomputer cluster this time. So that would be a big step. For full self driving, that's the one where like it's gonna be a lot of like inside baseball stuff again. I think. Uh, I don't. It would be nice for like an updated timeline, but like, what's that timeline gonna be again with that? Like, already Elon this year made a big change where he went from like 1 million robotaxi by the end of the year to 1 million people on FSD beta in a year, which is like doesn't mean anything. Like it's not nowhere near the same thing. So I think what we need is give us a clear roadmap to when does FSD Tesla feel confident enough to go to regulators and take responsibility for the system. And you say we don't need driver supervision. Like, when do you see that happening? And not only when do you see that happening, but show us like a clear roadmap show us like driver intervention within the FSD beta, show us driver interruption, show us like show us some progression that is not just a bunch of YouTubers that. Oh, I like that again. Am I
Yeah,
back in?
I think you're back.
All right, sorry about that. I went on a good rant too.
We got the first half of it.
Sorry about that.
All right, let's just move down since there's kind of a conversation here that's kind of interesting. Joel Sapp, if we move to time of use pricing, this will eliminate the issue that Stanford mentions. I have seen reports as well that 50% of cars charging are at home. I think it's probably even more than 50%, but that's a good point. I mean, basically, if the power company can just charge more when they get charged more, or when they have to go to peakers or whatever, and you can turn off your charging it during peak times, then it kind of helps everybody. So I think as cars get smarter, as the grid gets smarter, that'll be helpful. And then Mark Plot says cheapest charging is at home on grid energy, super off peak overnight, $3 to fully charge. Obviously, that depends on where you live and what energy company you use. And then we were just talking about like home chargers are only $500 and cheap to install for business, almost free after incentive and rebates. And you cannot expect employers to pay for electricity for all employees. Again, this is a big picture shift from home charging. I mean, they pay for healthcare. Why?
Yeah, that would be just another incentive.
Right. So that's the conversation. And then one last thing, IKEA and Whole Foods already have roof solar, so free employee and customer charging would be natural. Maybe not natural, but would be a nice perk.
Yeah, those are all solvable problems. Like this they need to be addressed. There's no doubt about it. Like I'm not saying like put that on back burner, but they're all things that like we can easily address, and we can probably make the grid better as we address them. And so it's all it, it's all small potatoes. I think within the grand scheme of like increasing vehicle production, EV production, EV adoption, and all that. I think there's bigger problems, but yeah, we need to address them. But I think that's it for this week's episode of the Electrek Podcast. I do apologize for the technical problems that I've been having. I don't know what's happening. I've never had that at this place. But I'm gonna have a new setup anyway within like I mean, I don't want to do my Elon with my timelines here because it's construction that's happening in my house. But I would like to say like within 2 or 3 weeks, I'm gonna have a new setup for my podcast for the podcast for my workspace in general. Looking forward to that. Hopefully, that's going to come with a nice Ethernet connection. I do actually have the internet connection ready there. I just need to have the office ready. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks to Recurrent for sponsoring this show. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to everyone. We got a bunch of 5-star reviews last week on our podcast app. We read them all. We appreciate them, and they do help the show a lot. Spotify, you guys went crazy. They gave us like, I think we have like hundreds and hundreds of 5 stars right now. I appreciate it. If you can do that on Apple too, helps the show a lot. And if you do like the show, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube, Facebook, and all that for the live stream. And it helps the algorithm, picks it up. Appreciate
and
it.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.